Sunday, December 14th, 5:23 p.m. New York time. Welcome back, investors, to Win Wall Street's Money. A little more than 40 minutes, the U.S. futures markets will be opening this Sunday evening. We're almost in the middle of the month, the last month of the year, the last quarter of the year. I'm going to go over the commodities, the category of energy, because there's some relevance this year more than many other years. We do a top-down. We look at multiple time frames. The two major energy commodities that trade in the U.S. markets: crude oil, natural gas. Sure, there's other ones. There's coal. I'm going to go over those two main ones. Then I'm going to tell you some history, like a bedtime story or something around the fireplace or something you might want to be situation aware of if you were taking a professional class at the universities. So here, I'm going to show you side by side. Left would be crude oil futures and the right would be natural gas. They're both fossil fuels. They're dirty and they're toxic. They've been around for a long time. So the left is a 20-year chart. Each candle is a month of crude oil. Same on the right, 20-year chart of natural gas. There's different kinds of crude oil, if you don't know. There's heavy, medium, and light. I'll get to that during the history part. So on the 20-year chart on the far right, crude oil, look at the high, 2008. History. Do you know what was occurring in 2008? And look at the bottom, 2020. What was occurring there? I'll open it up so you can see a little bit more wider. Yep. So crude oil, here are the high of 2022. The price was declining. We're in a consolidation here above the lows of 2025. Again, trend up, retracement, consolidation, stop hunt, impulse move down, consolidation, crude oil. Natural gas, look at the high, 2008, and the low, 2020. And here we are in natural gas, consolidation, breakout to the upside, consolidation, staircase pattern, higher high. Show you some more history. Let's go to max on crude oil. Natural gas. There is the high of 2005 history, if you know what occurred there. That's the monthly. Let's go take it to the lower time frame, the weekly. Each chart's 5 years weekly. Crude oil on the left, natural gas on the right. I'm going to open it up. There we go. Again, crude oil. See this orange horizontal line? I drew that. That's my place. When it's below that, I look for buying on the dips. Accumulation, smart money buying. Here we are earlier in the year on this time frame, and here we are now. Crude oil. Natural gas. Again, 5-year chart. Yeah, the past week had a huge impulse move down. Again, here's the low for the year. A lot of consolidation. Let's take it down to the lower time frame, the daily. There we go. Put it for a 6-month chart on each. Again, daily chart, but put it for 6 months. Again, left crude oil and the right natural gas. So on the left, crude oil, orange horizontal line. Currently below that, key level. Again, I interpreted it as a demand zone accumulation. I'm buying down here on the dips. Friday, it closes inside candle, solid candle, equivalent to a red inside candle. Massive wicks on the bottom. We took out that swing point right there, that blue line, and rejected, and buyers stepped in. Left chart, sorry, right chart, natural gas. Again, daily chart. Gap down here has not even been tested yet. Gap down here, not even tested yet. Obviously, they're not filled yet. And look at this one down here. More gaps, these blue puddles, streams. Yep. There's a key level. Okay, that was the daily. Let's take it real low now to the intraday on the 4 hour, where we have each one 4 hour. Bear with me. We're almost there. There we go. So again, this is intraday. Each candle is 4 hours. The left is 10 days and the right is 10 days. Left, crude oil. Look at that. The last 4 hour candle on Friday, inside candle. And also that Thursday, we broke a swing point and closed above it. Again, buyer stepping in here on the dip. On the far right, natural gas. Again, continue making lower lows on Friday, smaller trading ranges. So we have these huge impulse moves down and lower ones. If you're not familiar with stock ETFs, I'll show you stock ETFs. So these were the futures I showed you, but you could trade stock ETFs too. Companies that manage these stock ETFs, they buy the future contracts and the stock ETFs mirror them. Again, this is a stock ETF, USO, trades during the regular hours of the stock market for crude oil. And for natural gas, the stock ETF is UNG. Got it? You could do dollar cost average if you want. But let's go put this back on the daily chart. Again, left, crude oil, and the right, natural gas. Actually, I want to put it on the weekly. It's more important on the higher time frame, my opinion. Less whipsaw. So again, 5-year charts, left, crude oil, and right, natural gas. I am bullish both. Been sharing that many times and been sharing the price points in the areas I buy, trading bullish strategies. So today, give you some history. About 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than 20 years ago, I was doing research on my own to consider funding a project for a documentary on energy, fossil fuels, and nuclear energy. Spent a lot of time, my own money, never totally invested. I mean, I didn't get a producer or director, but I did do a lot of research that was leading to that and other things in life had me pivot. So the insight I got, first I'll tell you, most of my research was straight out of the federal government websites, calling the federal agencies, speaking to members there, and also calling utility companies, speaking to people there. Fortunately, most of the utility companies I spoke to, they had me speak to their PR representatives, the propaganda people, the people that were less informed. I'll give you an example. One of the power companies, electric companies I called, I specifically spoke to a representative representing the department for their nuclear power plants and asking them where they store their waste of nuclear energy. And they said, oh, we ship it off site. We don't keep it on our site. We send it to the place in Nevada. There's a place in Nevada, but it got defunded. It never went through. That was where they're going to store the nuclear waste. Anyway, yeah. So again, either she was ignorant or stupid. Tell me that. No, the federal government verified with me, public information, the nuclear waste. Again, it's not a huge size from those rods, but it's kept on site and stored in these concrete containers with other protection access. But again, it's kept on site. Why? Because most states, almost all states, don't want that materials transported on their highways to halfway across the country in a storage facility. Mm-hmm. But again, it's a clean burning energy. Nuclear burns clean. It's not putting toxics in the air. Yeah, if you have a meltdown, that's different. But natural gas, coal, crude oil, they have toxic that's exposed to the air. Again, it's going to go the direction of the wind mostly, and also sediment and contaminate soil, oil, and not good for respiratory. So again, nuclear energy burns clean, but then you have the waste of it. All right. That being said, the I have all this spilled out. I wrote this out somewhere 22 years ago. A lot of the information I'm sharing with you was I shared if you were one of the people who've been around since then when I showing on trading. Okay, let's continue. So currently, from the federal website, it's the U.S. Energy Department. There's other departments underneath there too. You can break it down, but the U.S. Energy Department, the recent data. Let's look at the pie. So the major energy consumption is petroleum. Petroleum is from crude oil, the dirty. So 38% of the total US energy source, 38% is from crude oil. The second largest one, natural gas, which is 36%. So it's not a big difference. But again, petroleum is the larger one. And then the natural gas, 36. Nuclear power, around 9%. Coal, around 9%. Remember, coal is the most dirtiest fossil fuel. And then we have renewable energies. You can break that down around 9%. So again, the majority of energy we use is from fossil fuels, crude oil, natural gas, and coal. Again, coal being the worst, the most dirtiest. The United States has a huge reserve and production of coal, natural gas, and light sweet crude oil. Remember, I told you at the beginning, there's different kind of crude oils, heavy, medium, light. We have an abundance of coal, natural gas, and light sweet crude oil. We export huge amounts. China still takes in huge imports of our coal. Europe takes in big imports of our natural gas. Again, natural gas has to be frozen and stored and shipped. Again, facilities have to be built. Remember, Greece was spending a lot of money to build a reserve storage for natural gas in other European countries because they had degenerate leadership, a lot of Eastern Europe, Western Europe, and buying a lot of fossil fuels from Mother Russia, which again, Russia got hard currencies of foreign countries to help fund their government for wars that they created by choice. So now those countries for the last several years diversifying their energy sources and helping our economy by buying our commodities of energy. Not just Europe, other countries also buy our natural gas. And also did a research that was probably like 17 years ago, give or take, to get information from Congress and auto manufacturers, but they had no interest. It was to have our trains, our big tractor trailers, our big motor vehicles for freight, not personal vehicles, and to have more of them use natural gas because again we have huge natural resources, so natural gas is less expensive than importing the fuel for vehicles. Yeah, we have a lot of communities that use natural gas, which is great because they have the infrastructure built in those communities from utility plants to run the natural gas. And then, unfortunately, your truck stops, car stations, and other facilities are not built out right now to have using natural gas, nor these vehicles. The trains, a lot of these trains in the United States use diesel. Diesel's so toxic. The United States, the state of Florida, the governor and the legislative approved the Brightline train lines here to operate in the state, and they operate on diesel, spreading toxics throughout the community. California, Brightline operates in California. They're electric cars. Yeah, they both create electricity. One's clean for the community, one's slowly causing cancer. Again, degenerate leaderships in this state. Okay, by choice. Thanks for supporting those people. Shameful. Okay, back on what I was trying to explain regarding different kinds of crude oil. the United States has a huge reserve and production of light sweet crude oil. But United States refineries, they've been around for a long time, before World War II. And obviously, they kept them building up, but they're outdated. They are outdated, just like many other things in the ports and other things in the United States outdated. So back then, obviously, technology was not as advanced as it is now for the refineries, but the cost money to upgrade and build new refineries. The business owners, there is no mandate that they have to do it. And Congress and the presidents, past and present, don't have the leadership to call them out on it. So those refineries, majority of them are business is from heavy oil. Heavy oil. It's the dark, dark oil. Again, this, if you ever look at oil, some countries it's so it's right on the level of the surface. It's coming out, they're oozing out. And there's other ones you have to drill down real deep between rocks or in the ocean. And then there's heavy oil, like I said. So Venezuela, no, I think it's Venezuela number one, and then Canada. And there's several other countries that are have a huge reserve of heavy oil. But the number one heavy oil the United States import from is Canada. You might have heard of it. It's called tar sands. It takes a lot of energy to produce that into oil because, again, the word tar sands. So I'll give you another history. Uh, the oil refineries in the Atlantic Ocean and Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, whatever degenerate name you want to give it, the hurricanes come, and when they come there, those oil platforms shut down, and they bring the people to shore, fly them on helicopters. The platforms, obviously, when they're shut down, we're going to lose inventory of oil. Well, immediately, U.S. government and the businesses up production from Canada that we import more Canadian tar sand oil at that time because we still have huge demands. I have shown this many times as trade ideas. For the currency trade, I give an example. When we start buying oil from Canada, we have to convert our dollars, Canadian dollars. I have many videos I share on that. They're trade ideas. They're very successful. Those trade ideas. It's the timing. You got to be nailing it right at the right time and staying to do it. But you don't have to naturally have to do the oil trade. You can do the currency trade. It's not that complicated. Baby steps. Again, I gave details of that for so many years. Again, it's the timing. You don't sit on hands and watch it go past you, but you can learn from that. So remember Trump this year or last year, he was talking about Canada be the 51st state. Again, there's a reason. US refineries are dependent on business for heavy oil. Told you, Canada is our largest, we import the most heavy oil from them. So again, if it's part of our country, a state, a US territory, it's a huge advantage strategically, economically for our country. Well, the second largest one of reserves, because they have mismanaged, piss poor leadership in Venezuela, they have huge reserves of heavy oil. Well, as the US government past administrations, all the way back during Bush, the father, the son, and the current leadership of the United States, putting pressure on Venezuela. Yeah, good. If we were to change the leadership in Venezuela or to make Venezuela a state or US territory, again, we'd have better access and control of the heavy oil instead of dealing with people that are not part of our country. Yeah, isn't it nasty how commodities can lead to war? Remember, Kuwait was invaded because tiny Kuwait has a huge reserve of oil, and Saddam Hussein accused them of stealing oil from his own from deep pipelines. Okay, back to U.S. infrastructure. Again, you have water lines to your neighborhoods. If you all had natural gas lines, because not all homes have natural gas, plus most homes have the electrical lines either above ground or below ground, getting electricity from there. But if you had natural gas to your house, then you have a choice to have your appliances or your HVAC system. I say appliances, your washer, dryer, water heater, or HVAC system, air conditioning, to either use electricity from the cable line, electric line, or electricity from the natural gas line. But most people don't have both of those. So you're stuck paying one price. We are not free markets, unfortunately, as you would think. The other thing is power plants. If we had power plants sharing those power lines in your community, say if you built a power plant that's going to use 100% natural gas or one that's 100% nuclear, and they share the power lines, that'd be so efficient and so much faster because they already built out the power lines. But again, when you have a company have the monopoly, they're not going to let competition in. And when you have politicians that accept campaign money, yeah. So again, you have degenerate leadership across the board in leadership positions. I'm not saying every politician in each party is like that, but the ones that represent them at the state and federal. So I'll give you some more insight. Maybe you know, or maybe you don't know. Okay. Fossil fuels, coal. I tell you, the United States has a huge supply of it and exports a lot of it. Well, do you know what the predominant use of coal is for the United States? You know what kind of energy it's for? It's not used for fuel for cars. Less than 100%. I guess it's like high 80. No, it's probably in the low 90%. Yeah, low 90%. I haven't looked at it for a while. Low 90%. Let's just say 90% of coal is used for electricity production in the United States. That's huge. Again, I'm not talking about the whole thing of energy. Remember, I told you the majority of energy is from crude oil, but I'm talking about the use of coal. The majority use of coal is for electricity. Crude oil, the majority of crude oil is used for transportation. Gasoline, diesel, jet fuel. So again, we're not a third world country, so we got a lot of jets. We got a lot of trucks and trains. Again, that's huge for the crude oil. Like I said, it's like I think it's like 67%, give or take, of crude oils for transportation. Again, it's huge. And the natural gas. So natural gas, the majority is used for, no, not the majority, but natural gas, 40% is used for electricity. Okay. And I already told you about the refineries there, dependent on business from the fossil fuels. I've been to a few refineries, not on site, thank goodness. Drove through them many times. The one in the state of New Jersey, three of them in Texas, Corpus Christi, Houston, Midland, Texas. Yeah. And then there was another one too. They are terrible place. Thank goodness I never lived in those. I felt sorry for you living there every time I drove through. Literally, the fumes made me want to throw up. It was so nasty. Again, it's toxic. And people work there and live there. Yeah, dirty. Okay, what's the other thing I want to go over? Okay, what percentage of U.S. electricity comes from coal? 15, 16%. What percentage of U.S. electricity comes from crude oil? Around 4%. What percentage of U.S. electricity comes from natural gas? 40%, 43%, blah, blah, blah. The finishes off. Already mentioned the light sweet crude oil and crude oil. Yes, the United States has a huge amount of light sweet crude oil. You might have heard of it called Texas light sweet crude oil. There's different abbreviations. They trade on the financial markets too. And the refineries, the major refineries, it's over 70% of them are doing or 70% of them are doing the heavy crude oil. So just give you some insight regarding, again, what's happening in Venezuela and maybe some alternative reasons things are happening there. And again, the statements regarding Canada. Yeah. Thank you as always, spending just a little time with me. That's it for the video. Thank you for watching.